Most people in this country claim Social Security early, meaning before their full retirement age. A lot of people claim it at 62. And today I'm going to talk about why that's a bad decision normally. I mean, for most people, claiming at 62 is wrong financially. And I say wrong because everyone's situation is different. So if you're watching this show and you've already claimed Social Security at 62, you might be looking for me to say that was a great decision. And I'm probably not. I won't actually, because it's usually not. A lot of people come to my channel to learn about retirement planning, and Social Security is a big factor in all of it because it's a big part of retirement planning is Social Security. And when they hear me say delay Social Security, those that haven't delayed it will be argumentative, combative, because they're looking for advice or they're looking for feedback that verifies that their choice was correct. It's not necessarily correct. That's called confirmation bias. But today I'm going to talk about some of the main reasons people give for taking Social Security early that are wrong, that I disagree with. Everyone's got their own opinion, but I want to go through these. Let me bring in my co-host, Tony Short. Tony, welcome to the show. We're talking about taking Social Security early, which I don't really agree. And I want to talk about some of the questionable logic that people are using lately to claim Social Security early. And
once my Social Security checks start coming.
Yeah. Homer Simpson would be potentially someone that would claim it early.
Yeah.
Now, if you are interested in coming up with some reasons and data and some logic that makes sense to claim Social Security early, we've done a show on that. So go watch that show and you'll get the feedback that, yeah, I should take it early for these reasons. But the reasons I want to cover today are not quite as logical. So I want to go through them and explain why I think that. So if you're still watching and you took Social Security early, you can undo that decision within the first year. You just got to pay back all the money that you took that first year, but you can undo it. But if you've already claimed it at 62 and you're now 64, you can't make a change now. It's too late.
You've locked in a lower amount.
You locked it in, but what I don't want you to do, and my only request is don't go around telling people to do what you did to make yourself feel good about it, or because some of the faulty reasons behind. You could tell people what you've done, but don't influence others. Let them make their decision using logic and math. So, Tony, you've talked to a lot of financial advisors over the years.
Yep.
And we've done a lot of shows on Social Security. And you've talked to a lot of people about Social Security.
Yes.
And your wife got into an online discussion about taking Social Security early. What are the main reasons you hear people say to take it early that are maybe not logical or maybe too emotional?
Sure.
What you have any that come up to the top of mind?
Well, a big one is that they feel that Social Security, they'll get more if they take it earlier. It'll end up being more money because they'll get more checks. That's the main. I think that's just a general logic behind it. Some people think I want that money and I'll put it into a fund and I can get a better return than I could if I let Social Security roll up, right?
Yes, let's stop there because I have 4, and that's one of them. But you that idea of I get more checks early, that you've covered 2 there. But let's talk about this. I could do better. I could get a better return than the government.
Right.
Now keep in mind that Social Security isn't just for you to put in and for you to take out. Social Security is also old age and disability and survivors. That's in the name. So yeah, maybe if we all had our own account and we put money in and invested in the stock market and didn't touch it for 40 years, we would have more there as a lump sum pool to pull from than what Social Security offers us. But that's not what Social Security offers us. Social Security offers us a fallback if we become disabled or if we die, our survivors get benefits. So you can't compare apples to apples. But can you manage your own money better than the government? You're not going to get me to disagree with that. However, this idea that I hear a lot of people say is take it at 62 and then invest it in the stock market, and you'll get better than if you waited. And then when you hit 70, you have a higher amount there and you got all that money.
But that's false. Because
I think so too.
Well, you don't have a 40-year time period to just leave it. Most people
Right, we're
will
talking
need
8 years. Let's say 62 to 70, because that's the logic. Take it at 62 instead of waiting till 70. Take it now, and
you've only got 8 years, and you might not average 6 to 8% like you would if you left it in Social Security.
True, absolutely, I agree. We did a show on investing the difference. Give me the money and I'll invest it. We did an entire show on that. But the bottom line is, can you beat Social Security's guaranteed return? There's a big if there. Yeah. 2022 is a prime example.
Yeah, doubtful that you can beat Social Security's return in an 8-year period. Possibly,
right.
But
you could double it. You could also lose money during an 8-year period.
And you have to have the discipline to take the money from the Social Security check you're getting and immediately put it into that account and not spend any of it.
Discipline.
In order to make that.
You have to also have the discipline to not panic sell when the market tanks.
Right.
You have to. You also have tax issues, because when you invest it, you have gains. That's going to be taxed differently than Social Security income. Social Security income is taxed favorably compared to regular income. So that is, I don't agree with that. Now, if you want to talk about, let's privatize Social Security and give me my money for 50 years, different discussion. I'm talking about people that say, I'm taking it at 62 because I could do better than letting it sit there and get it later at 70.
And Dan, I think the majority of people who use that argument that say, I want it as soon as possible because I can do a better job investing it and we'll end up making more. I'm willing to bet that over 80% of the people who say that don't end up investing it at all. They spend it. It goes into their checking account and it's spent.
And I'm okay with spending money. I'm a big proponent of spending money.
I have no problem, but it negates this argument for taking it early.
Absolutely. I agree. The other one you mentioned was not getting enough back. You get those extra checks, right?
Right.
So I call that the break-even fallacy. And I use the term break-even, my Social Security maximization report, which I give away to people viewers that want that. You can contact me. It has a break-even chart, right? And it shows people, and what people say to me all the time is, take it early because the break-even's like age 78 or 80 or something like that. And who knows if you're going to live that long? Who knows? Tomorrow's promised to no one. Take it. Bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush, right? Here's the problem with that. Break even on who, by the way? If you're married, you got to factor in your spouse, because remember, Social Security has a survivor benefit. And so if you take it early at 62, we did an entire show on this, Tony, people taking it early and kind of ruining or decreasing the value of Social Security for their spouse. And so, okay, I factor in my spouse. Maybe I should delay for their benefit instead of just mine, right? That, so the break even isn't just on your life. Now, if you're single, I'm single, I'm going to do the break even. I think what happens is people say, I'm not going to live that long. I'm not going to be able to get back. This was a comment on one of my videos about longevity, and someone said the average life expectancy in this country has gone down, which may be true. And they used a number like 74. An average male lives to 74. But what I tried to explain, which people really struggle with, what I don't understand, maybe when you're born, the life expectancy is 72 or 74 for a man, right? I don't know the exact numbers, but maybe when you're born in the United States, but once you hit age 62, your life expectancy is not the same as it was when you were born.
Right.
You've made it. So your life expectancy goes up the longer you live, and people just don't understand.
A pretty big percentage of people who live to 65 will then end up living until females could live until 95, a pretty good percent. And now it's more and more. And more people are living longer. The age expectancy fallacy is they're wrong, because when the numbers went down the last time, a lot of studies that show it went down, it sounds crazy, but I read a Times article that said it's because of the opioid epidemic that
Absolutely.
things like COVID and the opioid epidemic cause life expectancy to go down temporarily
For the general population.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? But the opioid crisis is disproportionately hurting younger people, which
Yes.
brings, right? So they're going to die in their 20s and 30s,
Yeah.
whereas someone 62, odds are they're not, there's
And they're
not an
talking,
opioid.
you were talking about averages, not, and
Right.
averages can lie. And this is a good example.
And when you look at your Social Security statement, it shows you your life expectancy, and it's going to be 84 or
Right.
83 or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Right. Depending if male or female. And so that's the number you should be looking at. And that's kind of the break even point. But don't forget, once you're past that age, that's when you'll get your money back. No, you're getting a higher amount for longer, and it's proportional. It's just it's parabolic, because you get the cost of living on top of a higher number. You get the tax benefits on a higher number, and people just don't seem to realize that.
Yeah.
I think people underestimate how long they're going to live.
Yeah, because that 3.7% cost of living increase we had this year, that was on top of whatever amount you locked in. That's a percentage of the amount you locked in. If you take it at 62, you're locking in a seriously lower number, and so your cost of living increase isn't going to be as much. But if I've maxed mine out and I'm getting, say, $3,000 a month versus your $1,200 a month or $1,000 a month, it makes a big difference.
Right.
It adds up anyway over time.
It adds up. And so, yeah, maybe even 80 is the inflection point for someone taking it 62 versus 70. But then every year past that, you really, the difference is exacerbated. But again, people say, well, I'm not going to live past 80. Well, you don't know that. But if you do, fine, take it early. Again, taking it early isn't necessarily wrong. It's just that to just blanket statement, I'm not going to get past the break even. It's not about break even. It's about the total picture, using your IRA money to spend, to get to delay, because some people take it because they have no other source of income. What are we going to do? That it's an irrelevant discussion. Maybe they just need to work longer.
If you absolutely have to have it and can't continue to work, that's one thing. But I hear a lot. Another one I hear is, I want to keep my money to pass on to loved ones, and I can't do Social Security.
Absolutely. I got
have
that
you
on
heard
here.
that?
Yes, I have that. That's one of them. Let me see here. I can't pass Social Security benefits on to beneficiaries. Right? If I die, my kids don't get the Social Security that I didn't get, right? I want mine now. So, and then I won't touch my savings. I won't touch my IRA. I'll take Social Security because I could pass my IRA on to little Johnny, right? And so, true, this is true. But again, don't forget, survivor benefits are for spouse. So delaying helps your spouse in addition to you. I'll take my dad for an example. My mom and dad. My mom was 4 years younger than my dad, and my dad waited until full retirement age to take Social Security, which was 66 for him. And but he was also working until his 50s. So he didn't take it right away. Now, why? My mom took it right away, but she died earlier than my dad, unexpectedly, right? So did they lose? Did they lose in that instance? Well, the reason my dad delayed is so that my mom would have a benefit in case he died early, which was expected because he's 4 years older and a man, but he's still alive in his 80s. So now he's benefiting from that. And if I look at my dad's situation, he was a teacher, public school teacher. So he didn't have a huge 401k or IRA. He didn't have all that. But what he does have is that guaranteed income, and that covers his needs now in his 80s. And it's growing at a higher, it's same rate as if he took it at 62, but the dollar amount is higher. So he's able to do more with it. And so I think the idea is income is more important than assets. unless you really, really care about your legacy. But I would argue this, and we did a show on this. It talks about taking Social Security later, using your IRA to spend down in order to delay Social Security. That's a very popular show. I suggest people watch that. But the concept is, yes, in the beginning, your IRA and savings, personal savings accounts will go down quickly because you're spending those to delay Social Security. But once you turn on Social Security, say at 67 or say at 70, the amount of income from Social Security is going to be that much higher where you may not even need to touch your IRA anymore. Where you may need to, you could just ignore your savings and let that go to little Johnny.
And you're entering a stage of retirement where you don't probably spend as much, because where you spend the most money in retirement is early on.
Right. And so the higher Social Security check later may cover everything you need. And then you have this other asset that you may not even need to touch. Whereas if you take Social Security early, it may not be enough ever to cover your living expenses. So you're always going to have to take money out of your savings to make the difference. So early on, it looks nice. But when you're getting into your late 70s and 80s, that's when all of a sudden you're drawing from an asset that's going down and your Social Security is not enough. So you're always going to be taking and taking and taking. Whereas if you delay Social Security, you might get that at an inflection point. You don't need to touch your assets.
Sure.
You could give them away while you're alive and see the benefits of passing it on.
Sure.
Or you could just let it sit. And so I think what people don't realize is that, yeah, it may be painful early and your beneficiaries would receive less if you died early. But if you live longer and once you get past that inflection point, you got to do the math on this. You can't just assume that everything's going to stay the same. Having a large Social Security benefit allows you to be less risky or even more risky as you get older. You could take those assets you don't need and you can invest them for long-term growth, and that can pass on to your children. So it's counterintuitive, but I see this all the time. People say, if Social Security is not going to pass on, why would I spend my money? My kids aren't going to get it.
Yeah. And on the face, it sounds right, but you really have to look at the situation. And like you said, do the math. You make some good points there. Now, a big one I hear, and I don't know if this is on your list, but listen to this.
Here's another truth. Social Security is dying.
Of course.
Social Security is going to run out of money. Everybody says it. The news articles say in 2034 or whatever it is, it's going to be broke. Yeah, first of all, it's just the reserve that's going to be depleted, not the actual. As long as people are working, there's money for Social Security.
I have it on here. That's my number one. This is the
number
big
one. Okay, yeah,
this is the big one lately.
Yeah,
Social Security's going bankrupt. Get it before get it before the Republicans destroy it, or get it before the Democrats run this country to ground. It's always this, and it's difficult for me to defend the government program. I'm not a government program guy.
No.
But I'm defending Social Security in this case because it's not going bankrupt. It's if things don't change, the problem is demographics have changed. More people are taking out of the Social Security system than are putting in. It's nothing to do with this, where the money was invested or the government pulled from it or borrowed, the IOUs sitting in the Social Security. None of that. It's all about demographics, right? So there are fixes for that, which we haven't done yet. Why? That's because I agree, government's incompetent. But this idea is get your money before it's gone. I don't like it. I don't like it for a couple of reasons. One is if you take a haircut, let's say you get, you take it at 62 and you get 30% less than you would have gotten if you waited until 70. You've locked that in. You're guaranteed to always get less than you could have. There's no guarantee that the government's going to have to cut benefits to 70%. They might, but if they do change it where they could only pay out 70%, you're going to get 70% of that 70%. So you're going to get 70% of whatever locked in lower number. Wouldn't you rather get 70% of the higher number? And bank, and then the other part of that is bank that the government's going to fix the problem like they did in the 80s with Reagan. because we ran into this before.
Oh
Demographic shifts.
They've made over the years. I just read they've made 100 changes to Social Security since it started in 1935. They've had to make 100 adjustments.
Right. They changed tweaks here and there. Obama made some changes in 2015 to eliminate some of the filing strategies. So things happen. Now, there's got to be some drastic changes, but we've done a show on all the changes they could do. It's doable. If you want to get involved, you can talk to your local congressman or local state representative and have them and fill out that. Just watch that show on what you could do. But it can happen. And who usually benefits from or has that biggest impact? It's the younger generation. So people that are 62 right now, changes that are going to maybe impact the program would be higher taxation, more taxed, changing the retirement age, raising the age. But usually what happens is they do that for those that are in their 30s or 40s, not for people that are right there. That's what happened in the 80s is they said, we're raising the retirement age from 65 to 67, but we're not going to do it right away. We're going to grandfather it in. So the people born in 1960 are the ones feeling it right now. 67 is the retirement age. So I would imagine that they'll make some changes to it. And the demographics will change eventually, shoring up the program. But so there's really this idea of get it while you can because it's going to go bankrupt. I don't buy it. Now, I could see why people get that. I think it's an emotional decision as opposed to a math decision, because if you do the math, there's some risk there. Again, Social Security is not supposed to be your only source of income. If it is, well, then you got to really take this seriously. I'm specifically talking to people that have the option to say, can I delay? Should I delay? And those people are in a great spot because they're not destitute where they only have Social Security. But I think this idea that the government won't fix it, kind of overblown. I think the government will. It'll take them just one.
And it might lower benefits
for
for some people or raise taxes for some higher earners. More of their income will be taxed by Social Security, probably. I mean, right now there's a cap on that. I think they only take Social Security taxes from what, 137,000.
Yeah, I think it's like
year?
160 now or whatever.
Oh, 160, whatever it is.
It's a cap and bump it to 500,000 or no cap.
Yeah,
that would solve it.
Yeah, that would solve it instantly. If they raised it to 1 million, it would probably solve it overnight. Yeah,
right. And so there's options for it to be saved, but for you to lock in because you don't think that's going to happen doesn't make that much sense. And even if they put a means test to, hey, you're going to get a reduction if you make above a certain amount, you claiming early is not going to change that. Nothing you do is going to change what the government's solution impacts you. So, to go based on that, I think a lot of people use that. It's fear. It's fear-based as opposed to math-based. Now, again, I want to repeat this because it's important. It does make sense for certain people to take Social Security at 62. There's a lot of people that it makes sense, especially if you're married. One person probably taking it at 62 makes sense. I'm not saying it doesn't. But what I'm saying is this idea of I could do better. I'm not going to live that long, or I want to pass it on to my kids, or the program's going bankrupt. Those are the problems. Those are the things I have a problem with. So, conclusion, Tony, use math, use logic, do a financial plan that incorporates it all. Consider healthcare subsidies, consider Roth conversions, consider all of these things into when you take Social Security. It's not this, separate decision that needs to be made. And whatever you do, don't get caught up in the emotions of it all. Don't let your neighbor who took it at 62 twist you into doing it so they feel better about their choice to take it early.
Right.
Whatever they do, whatever their reasoning, it doesn't mean that you need to do it. Your reasons might be very different. So if you're going to take it at 62 because you think it's going to go bankrupt, fine. But just know that that's your reason and that there is 5 or 6 other reasons why you should delay, and weigh them. Do the cost benefit. Have a discussion. Think about it. Just don't pull the trigger based on some emotion, because that's usually when things go south. Emotional.
God bless Social Security.
God bless Social Security. And let's hope that they fix it, huh?
Yes.
Thanks for a good show, Tony.
Yeah, great show.
We'll be following this closely over the next 7 years as we decide whether or not Social Security is going to go bankrupt and what people can do. But I'm cautioning people to think twice before taking it at 62. That's the thing. So enjoy the rest of the day. We'll see everyone next week.
All matters discussed in today's show are for informational purposes only.
This show is not investment advice.
Dan Riddle nor Dolphin Financial Group are affiliated or endorsed by any government agency.
Investment advisory services are offered through Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc., a registered investment advisor in the state of Florida.
Insurance products and services are offered through Dolphin Insurance, Inc.
Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc. and Dolphin Insurance, Inc. are affiliated companies doing businesses as Dolphin Financial Group.
You should talk to someone at Dolphin Financial Group before implementing any of these strategies or ideas.